This is Lights Out. I am Faisal Khan, and this is episode 2 of Boxing Talk with the Sugar Man, Shane Mosley Junior. And via Skype, I'm delighted to be joined by Shane Mosley Junior. And joining us today is the Lights Out team members, the Walsh Meister Luke Anthony Walsh and Ron Mohsin Gulsher. First of all, Shane, we spoke last week. How you doing? And how's isolation going?
It's going good, man. Trying to stay as sane as possible and trying to work out and stay busy.
Yeah, I think that's what we're all trying to do. We're trying to not go insane at the same time. Episode 2 is based on boxing in society, boxers in society. Today we want to talk about fighters outside the ring, and of course, Shane, with you not only being a professional fighter, last week you spoke to me about being around your father growing up during his career. So we just want to kind of get a feel of like what it's like for a boxer outside the ring. We'll use a few topics before we get your answers on the examples that we're going to use. We'll start off with example 1, Tyson Fury, a man that we spoke about last week quite a bit. You called him your guy. You said he's the main man in the heavyweight division right now, the WBC Lineal Ring Magazine champion. We all know Tyson Fury in 2015, after his famous win against Vladimir Klitschko, just a couple of months after that win in Dusseldorf, he suffered mental health issues, and now he's become an ambassador for mental health. Mm. And I think one thing that doesn't get the coverage that he needs, not only just in boxing, but also in sports, is mental health itself. Shane, how pleasing is it to see, after what happened with Tyson Fury, how serious people are actually taking mental health, and like a figure himself in Tyson Fury has become an ambassador for mental health?
I think it's great. I mean, I think a lot of times somebody has to be the first person to step out. A lot of people are afraid to kind of step in that light, and it's good when it's a celebrity and people that are somebody that people respect and love, like Tyson Fury. So I think when he stepped out and said, I've been struggling with this, other people can then come out and say, I'm dealing with that as well.
Do you think he made a lot of Americans sort of wake up to mental health as well? Because, of course, over here in the UK, we've sort of followed his story and how he's sort of come up the ranks in the British scene and become, obviously world champion. But obviously in America, where again he sort of is been fighting in Vegas and is such an international star now. Do you think he's had just as much of an impact in the States as he has over here?
I think so. I think he's become a big star out here in the States, and I think he has made a big impact.
Shane, when you look at mental health, and especially in sports, because when the modern person looks at someone as whether they're a boxer or a footballer or a hockey player, basketball, or whatever types of sports they are in, professional wise, do you think we look at it and just think, yep, they get paid a lot of money, they live a good life, but we don't actually see what's going on inside? Because we understand, being a professional in any sport, there's a lot of tough sides to come with it, i.e. being a role model, not just inside the ring or the soccer field, outside of it as well.
I'm sorry, I didn't completely understand the question.
So when you look at, for example, a boxer, boxers these days are said to be as role models, not just only inside the ring and outside the ring. How much pressure is it for professional boxers, especially for fighters that are currently world champions and, make good money, to set good examples, to be good role models for the younger generation outside of the ring?
I think it's very important for if you have like a platform, if you have people watching you, I think it is to your best benefit to be the best example that you can be. That's just my view of that. But I don't think a lot of people take that as serious as they should. But I do feel like if you have a platform, you should be the best example for people watching you.
I know you're still like in the middle stages of your career, and you told me last week on episode 1 you spent a lot of time with your father growing up during his career. What did your father do? What was the best examples he gave to be a great role model to the younger generation, to the fighters that are up and coming now in boxing?
Well, in boxing, he always just fought his heart out. You know what I mean? Like he always wanted to give a great show. He always wanted to go for the knockout. He would even say that was like his thing. I'm going for the knockout no matter what. Like even in, I got 1 second left to go in the fight, I'm going for the knockout. But I think outside of the ring, he always showed that he was a gentleman and always showed respect for the sport and respect for his opponents and people that he was going against. And I think that that's important because, you show that you can still, no matter what we're going through, you can still be a gentleman. You can still be a man and respect somebody else as a man or a woman.
Perfect. We'll move on to obviously, part 2 of Boxers in Society, and Luke Anthony Walsh will obviously bring up the next topic.
Well, you were sort of touching them up again, role models in society. I mean, two of the biggest goats, the two greatest of all time, Manny Pacquiao and Vitali Klitschko, have now gone into politics, and both are now going down the governmental route, and obviously are playing a huge part in sort of getting people together. I mean, I remember Manny Pacquiao going into the Floyd Mayweather fight where he had come into politics, and even now that he's returning back to being a world champion, the way he is a man of the people, and a way that he is now not only representing his people at a global stage, but also at a legislative level. Do you think, sort of in that sort of terms, is that it's important for boxers to not only preserve their image, but also, and also be a good role, but also, to be able to speak out for their people as well?
Absolutely. I mean, like I said before, if you have a platform, you need to use it to the best of your ability. And people like Vitali Klitschko or was it Vladimir or Vitali?
It's Vitali's involved in the Ukrainian parliament.
Yeah, Vitali Klitschko and Manny Pacquiao, they're using their platform the best that they can, and they obviously have influences on their people and on their country, so they want to do the best that they can to benefit their country. And both of them.
It's not even that. It's the way that they've been able to make a positive difference. You look at Vitali as an example. I mean, when he came into Ukrainian parliament, of course, it was during the times with Crimea and the annexation into Russia. And so it was his position as not only this sort of sporting icon for Ukraine, but also as a politician to sort of bring the people together at a time of crisis and a time of conflict, and to be able to say, yeah, we can stick through this and we can prosper together as a nation.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's what a good person to fight for the people, like an actual fighter. You know what I mean? Somebody that, I think it's more so, I think it's good that he's the person that can fight for his people as well.
Sorry, go on, Ron.
Yeah, I'm just going to ask, I mean, Manny Pacquiao has been doing recently in the news a lot about with the coronavirus in the Philippines, with medical equipment, and he's using his position. Are black athletes, not only boxers, is that the same in the US at the moment? Can you just give us some insight into that?
Black athletes are also doing that as well. I mean, there's many athletes that are doing that. I don't know specific athletes, but I know that there are athletes here in the U.S., black athletes that are doing that as well.
Well, I think as we saw today, I think black and Hispanic people are twice as likely to be able to catch the coronavirus in the U.S., according to a health official in the U.S. I think it's important that sort of in terms of America, and when you look at the likes of Floyd Mayweather, and you look at Sugar Ray Leonard and the icons within the sport, if they were able to show an example and be able to donate towards the cause, imagine the huge difference that they'd be able to make.
Yeah, they'd be able to make a huge difference in the black community and ethnic community.
I mean, when we talk about politics, especially, it's not only the boxers. I mean, you look at, for example, Arnold Schwarzenegger has become a politician. You also look at Glenn Jacobs, that's came from the WWE. There's a lot of sports people, there's a lot of former sports people coming into politics. Is that something that's obviously considered mainly because I know you hung around with many great fighters in your time. You've obviously you're still very, very close with your father. Do a lot of people, start out their career and think one day that politician is probably the way forward after their careers ended?
I think I don't know if that's like something that like they think of like when they're in sports, you know what I mean? Oh, I want to be a politician, but I think maybe later on when they want to fight for something, they have, different views of things, and they see the level of influence that they have. They go, I can go and change something. So I want to go into politics because I want something to change in whether it's my city, my country, whatever, because of their influence.
And just politics, how much are they helping the younger generation, especially the ones that are just starting out their careers, not only just in boxing but also American football and basketball, the big sports in the US?
How is politics helping?
Yeah.
I mean, it's helping, tremendously. I mean, obviously, people vote for the things that they, want to change. And, I mean, I'm not going to go specifically of like, what politics or like, things like that. Because
I understand.
I think ultimately, sort of following on from Faisal's point, is that the fact that college sports in America is such a fundamental part of American sports. We've got college football and the NCAA and March Madness, and you've got all the college sort of students sort of being praised at such level that is sort of unheard of here in the UK or even across Europe. I think it's important that now that we're in presidential year and sort of the countdown towards November's election, is that whoever is in charge for the next 4 years does support and does make sure that the right funds are in place for students to not only continue their studies and have the best opportunities, but also compete at the best levels. And for students who want to come and do boxing and are able to sort of pursue that, then they have the right people to hand.
Right.
We'll move on to obviously the next part of the topic, Ron.
Yeah, I mean, the individual who was larger than life that I want to talk about is Muhammad Ali. I mean, I can see that smile in your eyes, smile in your face straight away. A lot of people are inspired by him, but not only for his accomplishments in the ring, but especially for what he's done outside of the ring. Just name a few of him. He came about during a period where it was very difficult being a black man. He has been described as being unapologetically black. He had black pride, resisted the white resistance during this time. He even went as far as changing his name from his slave name to Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali. Prior to him, I mean, we had boxers like Jack Johnson, who was a heavyweight, but the white men were desperate for him to lose, just like Ali was. He was controversial. He was known as a Louisville Lip. The other thing that he did was speaking out against the Vietnam War. It kind of resembles to what Colin Kaepernick is doing right now, kind of speaking out. Also Ali was involved with, philanthropy endeavors with his charity work. And I heard of a story as well with Ali where he talked a man from committing suicide. I don't know if you've ever heard of that story as well.
No.
And lastly, he obviously helped negotiate. I mean, I found this remarkable. He helped negotiate release of 15 hostages in Iraq. I mean, what boxer? You know what I mean? He went over to Iraq, dealing with someone like Saddam Hussein. It's just far. I mean, it's beyond our belief. So, I mean, what are your thoughts? I want to know about you. What you think of people like someone like Ali and what he represented, not only as a boxer, but what he did outside of the ring as well.
I mean, he represented a lot of things for the sport of boxing, and I think he was, more known for being kind of this, black pride representative than a boxer. It was like boxing was what he did, like almost like an afterthought. You know what I mean? Like I think he was he was praised more for kind of his accomplishments outside of the ring more so than and standing up for the Black community rather than for a boxer. Obviously, he's had a lot of great accomplishments as a boxer, but I think people love and respect him more because he stood up for the Black people when they didn't have a voice.
Yeah, voice, absolutely. And I think Mike Tyson always speaks about him very passionately and very emotionally.
Yes.
And he talks about the greatest of all time. He refers to Ali. He doesn't refer to Floyd Mayweather. And he said about Ali and his relationship with his kids. You know, he talks about that with pride. You know, I think that's really important. That, you know, not only being a role model in the ring, but outside of the ring as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that he stood up for, you know, things that wouldn't necessarily give him praise at the time, but now looking back, you go, man, he stood up to people that we were afraid to stand up to. And I think sometimes people take the other road where they would just want popularity and things like that, whereas I felt like he stood up for respect.
Absolutely.
I think the way that he brought boxing forward as well. I mean, you look at it like the Rumble in the Jungle, and you sort of the fights that he had, and you know, and sort of his title reign in the 70s, and sort of how he represented boxing, and not only America on the global stage as well. It just goes to show how much of a fighting champion, and also of an ultimate fighter he was, you know, up until the day he died. It's sort of he's the standout as one of he has to be the greatest boxer of all time.
Yeah, absolutely. Without a doubt, I feel like he's one of the greatest boxers of all time.
Shane, you're in the middle stages of your career now, and obviously we're talking about role models in the sport today. You know, what is it that, I mean, you know, a message from yourself? What would you advise the young fighters? You know, the fighters that just turn from amateur to professional to avoid in the early stages of their career, to set a good example to the next generation that comes into the world of boxing, because we all know, you know, the fame life comes into a professional athlete's life. You know, sometimes it can get the better of them. What would your advice be to the younger generation, the next generation that comes into not just boxing but football, basketball, hockey, you know, any sport?
To be honest, man, it's pretty simple. Like, stay focused. I mean, it's very easy to get distracted by a whole lot of other things. And if you have a goal, you have to find a way to stay in that goal and stay dedicated to that goal. So whatever that is, whether that's, you know, that's prayer, whether that's, you know, studying, whether that's reading, whether that's a certain group of people that you just hang with that keep you focused, do whatever it is that you need to do to stay focused, because it's hard. It's hard to stay focused. There's a lot of things going on in the world and in life and that are going to happen that is going to knock your dreams around. But you got to make sure that you can stay focused. And when the time comes and you're needed to perform or needed to be there, you can be there.
We was talking about the middleweights. We were talking about all types of divisions in episode 1, and Ron mentioned the WBO super middleweight champion from the UK, Billy Joe Saunders. Do you kind of know what has happened with Billy Joe Saunders in the last week or so?
I heard something that happened, but I'm not really too sure.
Well, I'll let Ron bring you in on the topic, because he was the one that mentioned it. So I think it's only right that Ron tells you what happened with Billy Joe Saunders and get your thoughts.
I mean, we're at the time where we were in lockdown, and he made a video which was really inappropriate at the time. I mean, he was touching on, he was kind of humouring on domestic violence against women. Yeah, so it wasn't, you know, didn't shed it, you know, kind of paint him in the best of lights. You know, I mean, but there's been other boxers that have done similar things as well, where they've kind of tarnished the name and given boxing a bad name. I mean, in particular for you with your dad, I mean, it was Ricardo Mayorga, you know, that kind of running that your dad had and his antics leading up. And, you know, if you were someone outside of boxing, you know, you're watching that as, you know, it kind of taints the sport, doesn't it? What are your thoughts?
Oh, I mean, domestic violence, I don't feel is right. I don't know exactly what he said or what was the antics. I mean, or what he was referring to. So I can't really touch on that. But I don't agree with domestic violence. I feel like as a professional fighter, you should be able to restrain yourself from fighting anybody outside of the ring. I mean, this is what you're trained to do. You're a professional, so you should treat yourself and act like a professional at all times.
Exactly, and especially where Billy Joe Saunders was literally on the very cusp of fighting Canelo Alvarez, what was meant to be a couple of weeks' time.
I think also what really hasn't helped, what really has got a lot of people confused is the day before Billy Joe Saunders put this video out, Shane, he released a video on his Instagram delivering, I believe it was water and food to NHS members of staff. And Billy Joe Saunders has always taken part in a lot of charity work as well. But he's always had this side where he's kind of let himself down. And unfortunately, it's just another bad episode for Billy Joe Saunders. And as Luke just mentioned, he was on the verge of getting that big fight with Canelo Alvarez. Shane, again, do you reckon the pressure of being a big name, being a world champion could play a part in, professional sportsmen doing these type of acts, committing these kind of, just out of blowing it out of proportion? I mean, do you reckon being a champion, a big figure in the world, could play a part, could be pressurizing for these people as to why they do these silly, stupid mistakes?
I'm not really sure. When I become a world champion, I'll tell you. But my dad told me, he said becoming a world champion was one of the hardest things to do, right? But staying a world champion is 10 times harder. So, and that's because you have all of the other things that come to play. I mean, like when people win the lottery, right? They get dumped all this money that they never had, and 9 times out of 10, most of the people lose it, right? So, I don't know why he did what he did. I mean, there's also, all kinds of things that come into play. Like you said, probably like mental health. I mean, there's a lot of people locked down, and he may not be used to this. He might be going fucking crazy in his mind. Who knows? Like I said, I don't know what he said, and I don't know the parameters of that. But there is a lot of pressure from what I've heard from being a champion and and staying that way. I remember like a lot of champions are very, very paranoid. Like I remember going to Panama and training with Roberto Duran, and he's like the most paranoid person ever. Like he's like, oh, why is that person's been walking behind us for 5 minutes or like, I mean, like who's this guy? You know what I mean? Like, so you get that, and because it's like everybody's watching you, especially in this form, in this sport, the people that you're fighting against, they're trying to basically less than kill you. They're not trying to kill you, but they're trying to almost do that. You know what I mean? Like almost kill you. So, with that pressure, you have all of the other things that go along with that. And, if you don't have a strong mind, if you don't have a strong, things around you, that can be difficult. Now, not saying that he did it because, he's scared of Canelo Alvarez or anything like that, but there's probably a lot of things that he's going through that we don't know. So,
well, this is sort of where Tyson.
I'll let the rest of the panel
speak as well. Is that in interviews, sort of certainly I've been watching his documentary and sort of starting to read his book as well. Is that he was too scared to sort of come out with his mental health issues and how he was feeling, because he felt like because he was heavyweight champion of the world and he was this big tough guy, and he was, and don't get me wrong, when you're a heavyweight champion of the world, it's quite easy to say you're the strongest man alive. So for him to come out and to say he had problems, and for him to work through them and to come out the other side and say, look, it can be done, and then to use the metaphor of that, when he was knocked down by Deontay Wilder and he managed to get himself back up, and then obviously he should have won that first fight, but he then went on to beat him in the second fight. Just shows that sort of, and sort of this is what I was sort of asking earlier on, is that Fury not only showed to British fans across in boxing, but not only to American fans as well, but sort of to show to everyone that, you know, it's okay to not be okay, but it's also okay to sort of, you know, be open about how you feel, and you can get through to the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like they say in I can't remember, but like the first part is acceptance. You know what I mean? You have to accept it. You know what I mean? In order to change a problem, you have to accept that you have a problem. So I think that is a big thing. And I think with his example, a lot of people may follow suit.
I also did an interview, Ron, with Conrad Cummins today, which will be released sometime during the weekend on our YouTube channel. Conrad Cummins is a middleweight from Ireland. After the interview had ended, I just asked him, you know, what was it like for you at that time, just, you know, like off the camera, and he goes, the hardest thing possible was having to come out with it. And I think that's obviously a major issue, not just for professional athletes, but also for anyone that's suffering from mental health issues. And hopefully it's an issue we can overcome, because as Luke just said, it's okay not to be okay. And it's, you know, we need people that do suffer from mental health issues to come out and to speak up about it, and we can, you know, sort of crack on with what to do next with people that are suffering. Ron?
Yeah.
One boxer that's been in the news for the wrong reasons, despite, you know, his talent. He was the next coming of Floyd Mayweather. I want to hear your thoughts on Adrien Broner. You know, he's been in trouble, you know, with the police, with a series of charges against him. He spent time in prison. I mean, is it the hype that maybe got to him, maybe, or that, you know, is that? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm going to start off with saying that, like, he is probably one of the most talented boxers of this era. I mean, it's crazy to say that, like I was talking to somebody about this the other day, that when you think of guys that like missed their talent, or like, you know what I mean, like didn't live up to their talent, he's one of those guys. And to say that is crazy, because he's a 4-time or 4-division world champion. You know what I mean? Like, that's like nuts to say that this guy didn't live up to his potential, but he was a 4-division world champion. So like, that's just crazy. So I think that he was around the wrong people, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
I think he was around the wrong people. And, you know what I mean, if you're not around the right circle, if you're not around the right people giving you the right information, yes, you are talented. Yes, you are, you know, all these things, and you deserve to have that. But if you want to keep it, you have to train a certain way, live a certain way, be a certain way, because, you know what I mean, if you don't, you're going to lose it. And I feel like that's to a certain degree what has happened. You know what I mean, he could have been the next Floyd Mayweather, if not better, if he would have stayed on track. I mean, the guy is super duper talented. I mean, but, you know, when on the big fights, when he's, you know, needed to step up, there was a lack of focus, I feel.
Yeah, of course. I mean, lack of focus, you're 100% right. I remember watching that performance against Floyd Mayweather, and I thought, you know, all right, he's had his problems, but there's a chance that, you know, Adrien Broner could do something special on that night. And it just wasn't meant to be. And I mean, back to your point, Shane, I thoroughly agree with you. I think, you know, the people he's hung around with may have not helped. I think maybe the fact that he started off at an early age and he achieved so much he did at an early age may have been another reason. I don't think he may have matured quick enough. And again, like I said, it's just, it is important to find out what's going on inside the mind of a professional athlete that has achieved so much. Luke, anything else you'd like to add, Shane? Episode 2?
I kind of want to touch back up on that. I do feel like there's a certain level of identity, right? A lot of guys that are, you know, come up from a certain area or a certain, you know, type of lifestyle, they feel like they can't break out of that, because if they do, you know, people will say, "Oh, you've changed. Oh, you're this. Oh, you're that." And I'm sure we get a lot of that. There's a lot of social attachments, especially a guy that has made it, you know, as high as he has and has a lot of money. All those the people that he has gone around want to stay around, and maybe, you know, he keeps them around and they don't help his growth. You know what I mean? So I think that could be to a certain detriment. Of course, we've all, like, I mean, everybody's going to say, oh, you've changed. If this YouTube channel goes up, all the guys that you guys hang out with, they're going to be like, man, you guys changed. You guys aren't the same guys, man. I used to get to be able to interview whenever. You know what I mean? But, you know, the truth is things do change. And you have to be ready for the change.
Just what I think one final example sort of bring to the fore is that, you know, it's 4 years this week that Anthony Joshua won the world champion for the first time, and sort of you look at his story and it sort of brings together sort of what we've been talking about, is that, you know, he was first brought along to the gym by one of his friends, I think about 2007, 2008. As sort of, I think it was 19, 20, which, you know, at the time was sort of considered, you know, quite old to be getting into the sport.
Yeah.
And then he worked his way through the amateurs, of course, then won Olympic gold in London, turned professional, and then 16 fights later, he's the heavyweight champion, goes on to beat Klitschko in front of 80,000 people at Wembley, and that's because he sort of changed the way people he was around and sort of changed his thinking, and, you know, he's now become, you know, and he's always remained humble. You know, he's still living in a flat in Watford, and he's still, you know, even though he's fighting across the world, he's beat Andy Ruiz in Saudi Arabia, and, you know, he's earning millions a day, he's still extremely humble and a role model that it can be done.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the way it should be. And of course, you can use people like Anthony Joshua as an example. You know, obviously he's growing up, he had trouble with the police, but now you look at him, whatever you may think of him as a boxer, as a guy outside of the ring, he's a fantastic role model. And, you know, I think for a guy that come from Watford that had trouble with the police, you know, before going to the Olympics, what a way to turn his life around, and, you know, not only be a heavyweight champion of the world, but to be a role model. And, you know, being around, you know, what we do at Lights Out is we attend, you know, public workouts, we attend press conferences, and I've been to so many, you know, public workouts, and I've seen younger kids that are 7, 8 years old in boxing. And if someone had to ask me what's the amount of time someone said they want to be the next Anthony Joshua, I'd say I've heard it loads of times, because that's how much of a role model he is, and he is a great role model. And you know, he's done very well for himself, and that is what episode 2 is all about. You know, in fighters, not only inside the ring but also outside the ring. Shane, wanted to sum it up right for us in the next 20 seconds. What makes a great role model, not just as a boxer but just as a person itself?
You stay true to yourself. You try to be the best version of yourself, and you show that at all times. I feel like if you're trying to be the best version of yourself, whatever that may be, and you're doing all that you can to do that, and you show that in everything that you do, people will see that, and people will find similarities to you and attach that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or if you can do it in that, I can do it in what I'm doing, and I will be and stand up for what I do at all times.
Well said, Shane. I fully agree with that. And that's all we've got time for on episode 2 of Boxing Talk with the Sugarman, Shane Mosley Junior. Shane, thank you very much for your time. We look forward to episode 3 for next week. For those who haven't already, please make sure you hit that subscribe button and check in the description of the video. We're gonna put Shane Mosley Junior's Instagram there, so get following him. This guy's a future world champion. He is the son of the freeweight world champion Shane Mosley. And of course, if you want to know more about Shane Mosley Jr., check out The Contender. He was involved in some great fights, involved in a great series of season 5 of The Contender. Shane Mosley Jr., thank you very much for your time. Ron,
thank you, fellas.
The Walshmeister, thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you guys next week for episode 3 of Boxing Talk with the Sugarman, Shane Mosley Jr. Thank you very much for your time, Shane.
Yep.
Thank you.